Is liberty dying where you live? Escape to Keene at freekeene.com.
The Ladies in Media panel. There's all kinds of media being created here in New Hampshire, and we have the wonderful opportunity to listen about that subject from some of the ladies who are involved in media creation, because we just have so many great and talented ladies here in New Hampshire. So I want to introduce Cecelia as our panel presenter.
Good morning, everybody. Is everybody awake? Because if you're sleeping, that's fine. I'm cool with that. And if you don't like bowling at karaoke, I don't want to be your friend, okay? I'm just saying, if you don't like one of those two things, you're kind of weird and I don't want to be your friend. All right, so with me today, I have the lovely Carla Gericke. Did I say it right? Okay, good. And then Amanda Billyrock and Antigone Darling. And these very beautiful ladies were kind enough to come join me this morning. A little bit about me. Like Ian said, I moved in 2011 in the summer. For about a year and a half, I did a podcast/live radio show called Ladies in Keene. We did about 71 episodes, and then I decided I'm focusing on doing a video project, which I haven't put any out yet. Just give me time. I'm working on libertarian time over here. Just give me a couple of days. And then, Carla, if you want to tell a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Carla Gericke, as Cecelia said. Thank you so much for having me on the panel. I feel a bit like a poser because I don't really generate media, but have been sort of thrown into the role of doing a lot of media because of my role as president of the Free State Project. I do like to blog. I have an MFA in creative writing as well as a law degree, and I used to practice law in Silicon Valley, and I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda Billyrock. I moved to the Free State 3 months ago. I make videos and I write about economics and anarchy and all of my favorite things. I run amandabillyrock.com, but that is them closing that chapter this Sunday, but moving on to bigger and better, fear not, and that is what I do.
I'm Antigone Darling, and I run sexliesandanarchy.com. I've been doing that for 2.5 years, and it started out as 3 female libertarians talking about things that aren't necessarily news or economics, because there are a lot of podcasts that do that. So we kind of talk more about how libertarians live their daily lives and how they deal with each other rather than the state.
Awesome, awesome sauce. All right, so I want to keep this a little bit more informal, a little bit more open. So the mic's just going to be over there. If you have a question, you can just move on over there, and we'll get to you as we're talking. But I have some general questions for, I guess, myself and the other ladies. I wanted to start with Antigone, because Antigone's my favorite. I'm just kidding. You don't give me that face. All right, so Antigone, you're saying that you do more about like what's personal in the lives of libertarians. So how do you get ideas to do your podcast? Like, how do you get ideas for episodes?
Barely. So I'm always asking people, like, what would you like to hear us talk about? Because I will get feedback, like, I really love this show, and this was really interesting, etc. And I'm releasing episode 99 any minute now. Hopefully I'll get a text from my IT department. So we've done, like, 99 different topics. And a lot of things can be revisited too and get different ideas from people. The latest idea I got from a listener was, would we want superheroes in today's world? Like, what if there was a Superman and, he would decide who the bad guys were? I'm not really comfortable with that. So we're always looking for topics. Send them in to hosts@sexliesandanarchy.com.
So if you have a topic idea, just let Antigone know before she leaves. That's great. I know when I did Ladies in Keene, we was constantly trying to get up topics, didn't know what to do. We normally did a lot of current things, or I liked to critique other libertarian type, I guess you could call them celebriterians, call them out on their bull hockey every now and then. That's always fun. Amanda, I'm a big fan of your videos. I love your economic series where it's like basic, easy, 1, 2, 3, this is how it goes. Where did you get the idea for that series? Because I think that's a powerful video series.
I had just seen a couple other videos on YouTube, like I think people call them Draw My Life, where they drew a marker drawing of their entire lives up until a certain point, and then they put it in fast forward, and then they narrate over it. And it's so freeing because you can show anything you want. Like if I want to film like a mountain and billy goats and a fountain, like I have to go out and find them and film those things, and that takes time and money and sets and a film crew. But if you're drawing things, you can just draw whatever you want for free in like 5 seconds. So I thought, you know, what better way to explain economic concepts like really fast and cheap and easy than to just draw real world examples. And people cite Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson as like the foundational text to understand the free market. But it was written in the 40s, you know, and so it's maybe a little bit jargony in some of its language, and it seems to me maybe not approachable to like, you know, your average teenager who like lives on YouTube. They're not going to read a book that was written in the 40s, probably not. But if they're already on YouTube, I can just put the book on there. And so that is how I got that idea.
Awesome, fantastic. I really do like that series. Everybody should check out Amanda Billyrock's channel because she makes fantastic videos. If you haven't seen them already, you're missing out, particularly you over there. I see you over there. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit more fun. You guys got to loosen up a little bit. I know it's too early for you guys, and you're like, I'm at a convention. But chill out. We're having fun. Relax. All right, so my next question is for Carla. With the recent Bearcat issue, I absolutely loved the letters to the editors that you wrote. You were by far the most vocal and just eloquent in the whole thing. I just love those. Like, was there like a fire in you when you wrote those, or like what? How did you have so much passion?
Yes, there was a fire in me. I do not take kindly to being called a domestic terrorist. And of course, that is what Chief Duvall and the city of Concord did. So yeah, there was definitely a burning desire in me. I think it was good that timing-wise, it was right around the time where I quit my other full-time job. So I'm now, doing this full-time, which means I'm also able to dedicate more time to things than I had been in the past. I got a really good compliment from John Bush, who's actually a Free State Project signer, but they're doing sort of a similar project down in Texas. They keep coming back here for our ideas. I keep working on them to get them up here. But he sent me a quick note after several of those letters to the editor and just blogging on the website, and he was like, "Damn, your lawyer is coming out there," And I was like, "Yeah, the older you get, the more you have skills that you can sort of work on." And I think because I'd given up lawyering about 10 years ago, I'd sort of avoided that part of me, and this was just a really good opportunity to bring those two strengths together.
Awesome. It's fantastic. I'm so excited. I'm way more excited than you guys are. I'm sorry. This is my very first panel, so just bear with me. I'm a little bit giddy. So my next question is for Antigone. Antigone, why did you decide, out of all of the media that you could produce, why did you decide to do podcast and not necessarily, maybe not a live show, but why did you decide to do recorded podcast?
Because I had no idea how fickle audio equipment can be. That's why. It's a mystery. It's not science at all. So it started with Kelly, Candy, and myself, the original trio there, just having these conversations. I remember one night in particular, Candy was standing on the stairs for like a half hour because she wanted to leave, but she couldn't. So we were having these interesting conversations that really dealt with all the gray areas of libertarianism, because a lot of people will just be like, the nap, and like that's it. So we figured other people might want to hear us. And of course, we don't have to deal with video because there's the constant joke about like, hey, let's have webcams and do a topless episode and blah, blah, blah.
I bet that would be popular.
We'll do a topless episode as long as there isn't a webcam there. How's that? So yeah, it was like a conversational type of thing, and people are all kinds of shy. And we actually recorded for like 3 months before we actually released anything, because when you get the microphone in front of you and you've maybe never done that before, like it'll just be crickets. People had to get used to it and used to strangers coming up to you and talking to you about stuff, which, still happens to me. Like someone will come up to me and know all kinds of personal stuff about me. Well, the tagline for the show is where liberty gets personal. So I'm not surprised by that. But yeah, it was just an easier thing to do, I guess. Like anyone can start a podcast if you have a modern laptop. it might not sound great, but you can get your ideas out there. But like the real work is, you know, to actually grow that podcast, have people listen to it, and, you know, start conversations. So yeah, I had no idea how much work it would be.
One of the things I thought was interesting, I know we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and you were telling me that the majority of the new listeners that you're getting are from Pinehurst, which you don't even post on there. It's your listeners posting about your episodes.
Well, I don't know what the numbers are. I know that 12.5% of my listeners for that month came from Pinterest, and Pinterest is an image-based website. It started out being basically recipes, so it is 90% female users to the site, and one of my listeners started putting my episodes up there, and so people started downloading my episodes through Pinterest. I don't deal with Pinterest at all. I'm a total foodie, so I probably should. But I mean, it's hard enough. Like every day starts with, I look at the SLA Facebook page, I look at the SLA Tumblr page, and I look at the SLA Twitter page, and I answer all the questions, and I look at, you know, the Shire Society forum, and all of that stuff. So I mean, just social media by itself is a lot of work. So if you want to go ahead and post my episode on some social media thing that I've never heard of, go for it.
If any of you use Vine out there, post it. I'm just saying. It's like the new
The hell
thing.
is Vine?
I don't know. It's new. It's like the new Facebook or something. I don't know. I don't know. So besides social media, how do you try to grow your listener base?
Well, I think we live in a little bubble here in New Hampshire with Free Staters.
I would agree.
And like that's cool and all, but I want to grow it beyond that. And so I think my show is really approachable because it's not over the head, like, you know, nap economics. You know, it's more like casual, the way we talk. It's conversational. And so I'm going to be on IPM Nation, which is like a music thing, but I know someone who has a podcast on there and she wants to put me on there. So I'd really like to get outside of the strictly libertarian circles. Like I know a lot of occupiers and I consider some of them my friends. And as long as you're angry, you know, that's cool. Like you already are beyond the Republican Democrat thing. You can be a total socialist. That's cool. But you know, you hate war and you hate Obama. Like we can talk. So I've had people that I met via Occupy on my show, actually. We completely disagree politically, but we know that things need to change. So.
Awesome. Now, Amanda, why did you choose to do videos? Were you involved in some other media? I know you were down with Adam Kokesh for a couple months, working with him. How did you decide to do videos mainly?
It started as an effort to help Ron Paul win the presidency, and actually it was kind of on accident. In December of 2011, I'd heard of Ron Paul like 6 months prior, and so I was so psyched. And I went to a Youth for Ron Paul meeting just to kind of join the local campaign effort there in Salt Lake City. And at the beginning of the meeting, they were like, hey, by the way, everyone, watch this cool video. And so there was this group of people who were holding a contest to try to get someone to come and give a stump speech for Ron Paul at the Iowa primaries that were going to be kicked off soon. And so they were like, hey, upload your videos of you giving a sample stump speech. We'll pick one and then give you the money to fly to Iowa and back from wherever you're from. And I had never really had the intention of putting myself on the internet. That idea had never actually crossed my mind. And so I went home and just like made a video of myself with my little phone, like, Ron Paul, I love you, I want you to win. And then I sent it to the people, yeah, right? I sent it to the people who were holding that contest, and I didn't realize you could make it private. Like if I could have made it private, I totally would have, because I thought the whole thing was actually super embarrassing. And then just somehow like people just started seeing it. And so I just started getting message in my little YouTube inbox like, hey, make another video. Like, hey, I subscribed to you. And so that's how it started.
That's pretty awesome. That was like unintentional. I like that. I know, I'll tell you my story of Ladies in Keene, I guess. Originally it was myself, Allie Havens, and Kate Ager. And what I heard a lot when I first moved here is, you're gonna hear it, we're gonna get there. There's no women in the liberty community. And that kind of pissed me off because, yeah, there's a bunch of kick-ass girls, and we're up here in New Hampshire, so I was like, let's do something to show people that, yeah, there are women in the liberty community, and they're here in New Hampshire, and that's why you should move here for the Free State Project. I get a bonus for that, right? Yeah. Awesome. And, you know, Allie wanted it to be accessible because when she moved up, she didn't have a lot of females to talk to. So we kind of made this it was like an open forum kind of call-in live show, which we archived later, and you could call in and ask questions and talk. We wanted to be accessible to women and, you know, share ideas and talk about things. And it was over a variety of topics. And if you listened, I'm so sorry. You don't get a refund. You just deal with it. But yeah, like that, and we did a lot of social media. I didn't promote it as much as Antigone. I didn't care about numbers. I just wanted to talk and have people listen, I guess. And that happened. It was fun. It was a good time.
Well, obviously numbers are important, right? Because what we're trying to do, I mean, this is it's a platform, but it's also a way to get a message out. And I think an important thing is for many voices to start to tell their stories, because the more voices we have out there, the more media we're creating, and the more opportunities we're creating for other people to find that message. People are very personal in some ways, you know, so, you know, maybe SLA is not, you know, someone's cup of tea. It's my cup of tea. I like it. You know, or people aren't interested in economics or women's voices, but you never know where you're going to find that new audience or that new person. I used to do, I think Antigone and I did 1 or 2 episodes together. We used to do She Talk Live on Sunday nights, but then got canned when they went to a 7-day live show. And it was just fascinating to sort of see, you know, the response and sort of hearing that thing about, wow, you know, there are, and I don't like to think about things gender-based. I think we're all human. I don't really care if this is a panel full of chicks or full of guys or gay, straight, you know, Christian, atheist, who cares, right? As long as the sort of common goal is who cares. And so I'm sort of interested in finding out a little more about Amanda's future projects.
That was not planned. I did not know that was coming. This look of shock is real. So when I look out on the frontier of freedom right now, I am most drawn to what we have going for us between our computers right now, and most especially cryptocurrency. It has started to change my life. I'm starting to, as much as I can, opt out of using the dollar. And actually, I remember I first got the inspiration to do so, like the whole, like the imagery of, oh, if you stop using dollars, like maybe 1 fewer bomb will be dropped. I got that from watching Peace News Now. Yeah, and so I'm paying my rent in Bitcoin, I'm paying web maintenance in Bitcoin, and anytime I can, like with any Free Stater, I'm like, hey, you know, like instead of me spotting you back for beers and dollars, like how about I just send you some Bitcoin? How about that? And they'll be like, okay, yeah.
You rented my car in Bitcoin.
I did. And so what I'm getting at is that a lot of people would love to use it. They tell me this. I get emails from people like, you know, you've been talking about Bitcoin, and how do you use it? It's weird, and this and that, and this and that. And I had to have someone hold my hand. Like, Jeffrey Tucker actually called me and said, hey, by the way, are you using Bitcoin? And I said, no. And he said, get on Skype, and I'll help you set it up over Skype. And so for a lot of people I've talked to, they start using it because someone helped them. Like, someone actually took them by the hand and said, this is how you do it. And so I'm seriously considering making a series of videos that are instructional, that show people, this is how you use Bitcoin. This is how you back up your wallet. This is how you encrypt your emails. This is how you encrypt your text messages. And just like showing people how we can opt out of the system using the tools that we have. And so that's that.
Technology will set us free.
I love technology. It's my favorite. I don't know, have any of you seen Amanda Billyrock's video of how to sign up for the Free State Project? That is my second favorite video of yours, the first one being Anarchy Camp. I can't believe in the 10 years of Porkfest, no one has ever called it Anarchy Camp before. That's awesome. That's great.
I actually saw a quote yesterday from Roderick Long, who said, Porkfest is Woodstock for rational people. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's pretty good. I like that. That's good stuff. So a reminder, if you have any questions, just go over to the mic. It's right over there. I'll be happy to answer them. I'm sure Carla will answer them. I don't know Amanda. She doesn't seem very talkative today.
I will answer any question that you have.
Awesome sauce. Carla, do you have any plans for the future? Anything that you plan to do for the Free State Project in the marketing sphere?
Yeah, we have, everything we do with the Free State Project is chicken and egg. We need to raise money to do whatever we want to do. So, anyone watching this at home who would like to donate, feel free to go to freestateproject.org. One of the beauties, I think, of social media is that you don't really need to have that much money to have a big impact. Obviously, Facebook is a really good tool to spread a message, social media, Twitter, all of that. I've been surprised. One of the things I really like about Facebook is, there are lots of reasons not to like Facebook, don't get me wrong, but my sense of things is we're not doing anything wrong. Who really gives a crap? Let them store everything in a cloud. Life goes on. I'm not going to live my life in fear, and I'm going to use the tools that are available to me. So when we, if we do, say, a short Facebook ad campaign, we'll only throw $100 or $200 at it, but on last Friday, we met our 15,000 signers, woohoo! And we're really honestly in the home stretch now, so I'm excited. We put $200 into a Facebook campaign. We got 20 extra signers. If you look at the math on that, that's really a good return on investment. So we'll probably be doing a lot more of that. We're also going to start advertising on the Free State Project website. We're hoping to do some of those as relationships, as sort of in-kind exchanges. So, we can go to people who have supported us over the years, people like Survivalist Podcast, Jack Spurko. He's for years now put, a banner ad up on his website. I'd like to be able to return the favor. A lot of what we're doing is relationship based, right? Like, ideas are bulletproof. We want more and more people to adopt these ideas. Not everyone is going to move to the Free State. Everyone should. It's the best game in town. It's really about the community here. But let's help to spread that message far and wide, and technology is going to help us do that.
Awesome. I like technology. Again, I yearn for a day I can walk into like a theater and go and push some buttons and get my ticket and not have to talk to someone through a glass and go push. I'd rather just push buttons and talk to people. I guess maybe. Don't give me that look. It's easier. Cut out the human quality. And actually, one thing I wanted to add, specifically with Facebook, and I guess Twitter to some extent, is the tools within those platforms are becoming really powerful. And so instead of, 10 years ago, everything was just a crapshoot, right? Unless you were a super focused marketing expert who could, run polls and do studies and do research and do all of those things behind the scenes as a profession. Most of us noobs were just, you were out in the cold. But the beauty of something like a Facebook or any platform that allows you to track metrics is all of us are becoming experts. Like, I can actually go and see what is the ROI on something that I've just done. I can see, hey, this translated into this, or gee, that was a total bomb, don't do that again, or try this, or boobies work, or, whatever it is. We actually have, instead of it just being the sort of best guesstimate, we actually have firm metrics that make us more powerful within this medium. Carla, boobies always work. Boobies,
it's true.
Boobies make everything better. There you go. You can clip that. I love the faces you're making at me, Antigone. It's awesome. Antigone, what is next for Sex Lies and Antigone? Sex Lies and Anarchy. Do you have anything planned? Are you guys going to be doing another party this year? Mm-hmm.
Please get me back for the food show.
Okay, Sex Lies and Anarchy plans. I don't like to announce things because then stuff happens. I've been working on a new website forever. So I saw some development yesterday, which makes me just like nervous. We're so close. So the website should be much more robust. There should be much more going on. And hence giving people a reason to go to our actual website instead of just subscribing or whatever. I'm going to be doing extra work. What am I thinking? Anyway, so that's going to happen, and I think there will be the 3rd annual Sex, Lies, and Anarchy party, and the beer is going to be brewed shortly. So, like last year, there's going to be a Sex, a Lies, and an Anarchy, a blonde, a redhead, and a brunette.
I heard last year the sex was the best. I didn't get to try any because I don't...
No, Anarchy was the best. Come on. That was gone. It was a nice coffee porter. So, for Liberty Forum... See, he's excited.
Liberty Forum.
And we have a question.
Oh, yes. Hi, what's your name, Dean?
My name is Dean, Cecelia.
What's your question?
I'm interested to know how each of you interface with mainstream media, because I know, Carla, you do a lot of outreach and you have to walk a fine line sometimes. And for Amanda and Antigone, I'm interested to know, I know that you probably take topics from the mainstream media often, and I'm wondering if you ever try to submit articles to mainstream publications or anything like that, or if you think it's worth your time to do that.
I am learning a lot of things recently that I didn't know. Since I became employed as a blogger with the Content Factory, they've been asking me to read certain things. And what I'm reading right now is this it's memoir. I don't even know. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And it's about this guy who's just like a master marketer. And he basically talks about how the media works. And I'm not sure exactly what level of mainstream media you're referring to, like CNN and NBC and all of that, whatever. But regardless, he talks about how the juiciest stories or whatever are like generated like locally on the ground, because that's where you're going to find out, like that's how I'm going to find out that like Carla wears like pink polka dotted pajamas, like CNN's not going to find that out.
Not a true story.
I was keeping it G-rated.
I do wear sushi pajamas.
So then it's actually local blogs that are like bringing out the stories. Like that's how like the Bearcat thing got the coverage that it did, because like people on the ground were blogging about it and then just shooting out emails to people a little above our rung of media, and like shooting out emails saying, oh my God, like why are you not covering this story? You're gonna be the last one to cover this story if you don't get on it right now. And so it really just like builds in a tier. And so, because I didn't know this until just recently, I never actually engaged in any of those kinds of things with anything that I wrote or produced. I was just putting stuff out there. And so from here on out, as I continue, I'm going to use that strategy more.
Just to add to that, I read that book as well about a year ago. Carrie DePhillips, who is one of the co-founders of the Content Factory, was like, you need to read this so you can understand how things work. The book disturbed me a little as well, because really in some ways it talks about media manipulation. But on the other hand, this is irregular warfare. We're smaller and we got to be smarter. So when it comes to something like those tiers, the way it will work is a news source like Free Keene actually shows up, although it is a blogging website, it will show up as a second tier. So there's like low tier, which would be like if I put something on my personal blog, then there's second tier, and then there's real media. The Free State Project's website is actually only second tier, but Free Keene, because they blog very regularly and they've been around for a long time, actually shows up as a one-tier media. Why does that matter? So when you drop a press release, if you're using a reputable press release company, something like PR Web, and there's several ones out there, what that company is now doing is they're basically acting both as the gatekeepers of information, but also as the fact checkers for other news sources. So there's been a shift in the market. So these guys go and they actually fact check what is in the press release so that the mainstream media or the top tier media can pretty much run with the press release. They'll reword it a little bit, change it so it looks slightly unique, and then just print it. So they don't have to do their homework anymore. Now, what's interesting about something like that is you can also back into information. So when we did the 15,000 press release, we wrote it and put it up on Friday. We dropped it on Monday. Ian blogged it on Free Keene as well, so we had that tier. But in the press release, I actually talked about certain spikes that we have received in sign-up rates because of the Cynthia Chase scandal, where, was a Keene, New Hampshire Democrat representative who basically said, Free Staters are the greatest threat to the state of New Hampshire. And then we had the whole Bearcat situation where we got called domestic terrorists. Someone should tell these people that we're not in a sandbox and name calling is not going to work. And every time they call us names, thank you, because that's good for us. So what happened was when PR Web was going through the press release, they couldn't find any corroborating information about the Cynthia Chase scandal. So what had happened was the internet had been scrubbed clean of any union leader stories, anything that was like first tier media. The only things they could find was Free Keene and nothing from us even. And, so I need to go back and I want to write a blog about this and maybe do the Wayback Machine and just take a look. But Carrie said when she was trying to push the press release, that was, fascinating because it's like, wow, there is a system now where there is a memory hole, like from 1984, where, they go back and they're just sort of, that is a tool then to make it harder for small organizations or maybe not aligned with the mainstream organizations to even get their press releases out there. It took 9 rounds of back and forth to find the sources to satisfy the company that the press release could go out. Now, why do you want to use a firm like that? You want to use them because I have a press list and I just email my press people. I'm pretty sure it's going to most of their spam accounts. So having something like PR Web or having a professional firm do it does help get us in front of, the eyes of other media. I wanted to make one more point in terms of dealing with mainstream media. That has been a challenge because, as Antigone said, we are slightly insular. We tend to know within our community what we're talking about. We also sometimes talk in shorthand. What's the NAP? It's the non-aggression principle, if you want to go Google it. It's sort of like when you work in a company for a long time. I worked at Apple Computer, and when I started there, half the meetings, I had no idea what people were talking about, because they were talking in acronyms and synergy, and I was from Africa, but I was just like, okay, like nothing here makes sense, but then you learn the language. And I would encourage people who are trying to actively communicate to a bigger audience, and the only way we're going to grow our audience is if we're communicating with bigger audiences, is be cognizant of that. Think about how you're framing things. If you use a term, I talked at Harvard a few weeks ago and I was throwing around minarchist, and I could tell, I was like, wow, there are kids here who don't know what I'm talking about. So when you're talking to someone, and really when you're trying to communicate and educate, circle back, sort of do that professor thing. It's a little boring, and you don't have to necessarily do it here, but if you're like, oh, minarchist, that means someone who still believes in, small, limited government, or, define your terms and just make sure that the audience is actually comprehending what you're saying as opposed to just being talked at.
I definitely agree with that. It's very important to gauge what you're saying or what the language you're using to your audience. Because if you're talking to someone who doesn't even, they're like, oh, anarchist, you throw Molotov cocktails? What is going on over here? You gotta start from your basics. If someone's stuck in that right,
no, we drink them.
If someone's stuck in that right-left paradigm, you have to start find out what's most important to them and start there and build from there. Antigone, did you have any response to Dean's question about interacting with the mainstream media?
I don't. So, I don't even know what it is because it doesn't interact with me. I watched TV for the first time in like a couple of years, and it was an episode of South Park.
Do you scan mainstream media?
Yeah, not really. It pisses me off. So basically, that's what my Facebook is for, because it'll filter, you know, the news that actually gets to me. If it's important, it'll get to me. If the federal government shuts down, guess what? That's not important to me. So, you know, I do agree with like what Amanda was saying earlier. It's like that we are the media. Like, I haven't read this book that everyone else has.
Neither have I.
I didn't get the memo. But, you know, like, I happened to be in Watertown. So I was there taking photos, like, while that happened. The mainstream media didn't tell you what happened. They had to cover it because everyone was there with their cameras. You know, that was a really crappy week for me, because then I was at UNH Durham. Like, there are way too many riot police in my life. They're, like, following me around. They shut down this, like, college party. And this was New Hampshire, not Mass, so they had like paintball guns or airsoft guns or something instead of like M16s. But, you know, we were there covering all of that. So we're forcing the mainstream media to follow us around at this point.
Yep, I'm kind of like Antigone. I get my news from Facebook. So the important stuff, like cops beating up on people and shooting things, and I get that stuff. But like when I'm at work and the TV comes on and Obama's starting to talk about affordable care, something, I'm like, I don't care. Go away, because that man's just crazy. But
you know, I think we miss an opportunity then as well. When I was driving here this morning, an HPR, Laura Conoy's show from 9 to 10 on Fridays does a weekly news roundup of what has gone on in New Hampshire. Now, I also personally have very little interest in politics, even on the local level, but I'm trying to be a little better about it, because all these people are contacting me and they're like, help us. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not my job. But anyway, so she does like a summary of what's going to be on the show, and then it's the 9 o'clock news, and then they start the show. So in the summary before the show, she was like, oh, we're going to be talking about Common Core, we're going to be talking about, you know, these politicians, we're going to be talking about Medicare, Medicaid, we're going to be talking about the Free State Project meets its 15,000 milestone. And I'm like, ah! So and I was like, okay, I can't call in. I don't like to talk on the phone in the car. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I hope someone calls in. I hope someone calls in. So I could tell from the way they were staging the show that she felt from a real news journalist standpoint that she had to mention it, but that she was only going to mention it in the opening and not bring it up at all in the hour unless someone called in. And, you know, something like that, I would encourage people who live here, who are interested in media, to maybe listen to that show once a week. It's 1 hour, and that is a way to kind of know what's going on here. And it also creates an opportunity. I mean, if we had a call bomb on every Friday where they just knew, and I'm not saying everyone, and please, if you're going to do it, think about it, try and be eloquent, jot down some talking points. But, you know, there's a way to guerrilla their own media and use it against them, as long as we're using it in a smart fashion, right? And in the, you know, don't be the, and God bless everyone, you know, different people have different skills. You know, but don't be the crazy guy calling in, you know, but to make sure you have something to say and that you can say it succinctly. The irony of the show was that they were talking about one of the challenges that the state of New Hampshire faces is that young people leave the state, right? I remember right after I moved in 2008, I was buying something at the store and I had to show my ID. That was the last time I got carded. I was happy about it. And the girl saw it, and it was still my New York State license. And she was like, you moved from New York City? Why? You know? And that gave me an opportunity to talk about, you know, the great things about New Hampshire. But I feel like today, you know, that hour call, that was a missed opportunity. If they were talking about people leaving the state, there's an opportunity and talking points to call in and to say, well, you know, you had mentioned the Free Staters in the opening. You know, there are going to be 20,000 people moving in. 40% of our, about 40% of the people are techies. They're bringing businesses. They're working for the big startups. They're working for the big technology companies. I mean, these are all pluses. And, you know, that's the message that needs to start to get out there. And I'm interested in sort of utilizing mainstream media more. And I have one more thing to say, which was a lesson learned. I mean, you know, I don't mean to be preachy, is with the Bearcat situation, I pitched the story to NHPR. They told me it wasn't a story. The Thursday after that, the chief of police, you know, had his knickers in a knot and he was, you know, egg on his face and all of those things. So then he contacted them and they were like, we'll do a show, but we're not going to have you on, Carla. We'll have the NHCLU on, Devin Chafee. She did a good job. And we'll have, you know, Chief Duvall on and you can call in. And the mistake I believe I made was I was pissed. So they asked a question and they immediately linked our position to guns. And I just came out of the gate flying and they cut me off in 90 seconds. And I think I have a good enough relationship with Laura if I had approached that differently, or maybe even not even have answered that question, right? Because you don't have to answer the question they ask. Then, you know, I might have gotten more airtime and I could have used it for a better opportunity. So, you know, interactions with the media, it's always a learning experience. I think it's important to talk about what we learn, the mistakes we make, so that we can all do it better going forward. In the end, we're all ambassadors for an idea. And, you know, ideas are bulletproof, but there are better and worse ways to deliver it.
It's all about changing hearts and minds, in my opinion. I don't know about you ladies, but when I talk to someone, I'm trying to, or even when I produce something, when I make a video or I do a show, I'm trying to convey a message, whatever that message is. I try to, you know, do it in a common and, well, maybe not common, but approachable manner and, you know, try to make sense and whatnot.
Like that.
Blah, blah, blah. I was going to make a comment about what you were saying about using their own media against them. And in Keene, I know there's a number of folks. There's this radio show on Saturday mornings called Talkback, and not anymore, but for years there was this Talkback show, and the host was very not pro-liberty. She was not a nice lady, in my opinion. But she would have a lot of anti-liberty or anti-free stater, blah, 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 blah. And there was always people every Saturday calling in, you know, to make comment or what have you, and kind of, you know, be like, well, you're wrong. Just shut your face. But which is good, which is what Carla was saying. I don't speak as eloquently as you. I'm a little bit more common talk. Yeah. So yeah, does that answer your question? Do you have any more? Okay, good. I'm glad. He came all the way from Canada.
And actually, Dean, another thing I wanted to say on that point is with this book and the sort of tiering it up, there are techniques to do that. And if people are looking for like literally armchair activism, a lot of our constituents spend all day in front of the computer. And there are incredibly simple, less than 5-minute ways to make a really big impact. And that's things like when you see a press release or you see a story or you see something that's fascinating, drop an email, a tip to CNN tip line, to The Blaze, to, you know, you probably know some of the other sources better than I do, but Gawker, Politico, like HuffPo, if you can, you know, literally, you know, they sit there and they look at, oh wow, 5 tips came in on this, and this actually looks kind of interesting. Maybe we should look into it. So it's a really easy way to, and you know, and the point of having lots of people do it is they're also not idiots, you know, when it's like the same 5 people sending the same 5, you know, sort of themed tips to places. So, you know, if you're wondering, hey, I really want to help, but I don't have money to give, or I don't have much time or whatever, that's a really great way to just help. And another great way to just help with messaging is like and share and comment on Facebook. I'm sure everyone in this room has heard this a million times, but the point is the way their algorithms are written, that stuff really makes a huge difference. If we have, by way of example, if I post, you know, just, I don't know, the Halloween photo, right, from yesterday on the Facebook page, let's say it'll get 4,000 views, right? If you boost a post, you can get up to like 20,000 views. But if you have people just like, share, and comment, so you haven't spent a cent, you can actually double that number as well. So that's like a really easy thing. You know, for those of you who are on Facebook, I mean, I'm probably hidden from everyone's feed because they're like, oh my God, she does the same thing over and over. But there's 6 or 8 of us who do that. If there were 40 or 50 of us or 100 of us doing that, the exponential, the exponential growth we get out of that is incredible. So, you know, I would encourage people to do that as well.
All right, going back to Bitcoin, because Amanda, you were talking about Bitcoin, and I don't Bitcoin at all. My roommate's Bitcoin. I'm going to lose my wallet or lose my password or lock myself out. So maybe you can show me how to do that later. But you've been doing Neocash radio lately, haven't you?
Sometimes.
And that's more focused actually like on Bitcoin. Everything is Bitcoin 24/7.
They actually talk about all forms of alternative currency, or not even alternative currency, just currency in general. It's JJ Schlesinger and Darren Tapp. And they're both like super techie math heads, and so they're very good at what they do. Yeah, it's neocashradio.com. They're always talking about gold, silver, yen, Bitcoin, Litecoin, dollars. It's just, yeah, they have me on sometimes. It's very nice of them.
That's awesome. I don't know Bitcoin. Do you know Bitcoin? I don't.
I have a wallet. I paid, actually I cashed out, I was short on rent one month and I actually cashed out like when it had dropped to, I bought at 6, so it was cool, but you know, I cashed out at maybe 90 and then it was that run up and I was like, but I have a few, and one of the things that's really compelling about Bitcoin is it's a way, as you say, to sort of stay out of the community, but it seems like it's also pretty easy for people to be like, hey, yeah, let me just give you one of those, you know, and so you have it in your wallet and you kind of forget about it, like that guy who did the story. Did you read about this?
Which one?
It was yeah, he had bought his grandmother or something, some Bitcoins for, you know, nothing, and he's a millionaire now. He had forgotten, he'd written a story about it in like 2007 or 8 or something, and I was like, oh, I wish that was me. There we go, 5,000 Bitcoins for $25. It's, I think, worth just under $1 million now.
My final weigh-in on Bitcoin is that it's not a libertarian currency. It's not like a libertarian thing. There isn't like an opinion or moral statement behind it. It's actually just a superior currency to anything that's available. If you want to buy something from China, like, are you gonna cut your gold coins in half and like measure them and then hope that the exchange rate is like similar when they receive your shipment of your half coin of gold next week? It's just like, it's a superior currency compared to everything. And it's accessible to anyone. It's free. There is no middleman. There's no nothing. So like, even, you know, if you're a communist, you can still see that Bitcoin is actually just a superior currency. And so something that I want to talk about going forward is not like, hey, come join me and all the anarchists and buy drugs and, you know, get out of paying taxes. I mean, even though those, in my opinion, are some of its greater assets, that's not even the selling point. It's just a better money. And yes, okay.
I love how excited you get. It's just, that's one of the reasons why I love your videos, because you just feel what you're saying. You can feel it, and that's one of the reasons why I think you do so great with the method of media that you've chosen. And I'm so glad that not only that you chose video or the moving pictures, not only that you chose moving pictures, but you moved to New Hampshire, because I think you are a great addition to the activist community up here. And if you haven't moved yet, you should move. I get another bonus. Yeah. Golden porcupine coming my way.
And actually, if you haven't signed up yet, you should sign up too. We have some sign-up sheets in the back.
Amanda has a video if you need a how-to. So
these are the old, this is like paper sheets. My laptop's in the car. I mean, we could do that.
There is the internet now. You know that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So did any of you ladies have anything that you wanted to talk on about media, anything specific or any other questions? Because I am running out of questions and you guys are killing me over here.
Could you mention the name of the book you were talking about?
Trust me, I'm lying.
And actually, I mean, that book was fascinating because this guy was a PR genius. But he would do things, I mean, when our social media team read the book before we did an offsite, maybe like a year ago now, and we had a lot of debates about, sort of the ethics of his approach. I mean, this guy would like get billboards and pretend that he would put up a billboard and then he would go out at night and pretend like it had gotten defaced by, rabid feminists, and then that would be the news story. So the billboard for the original advertising would be covered. And, so, I say read the book and maybe we do a talk at Liberty Forum, we can have an ethics debate or something, because it is pretty interesting. And I have to say, when I was little, my dad said to me, you could be one of two things, a lawyer or a criminal. I'm not sure where I shook out on that, but everything in that book, I was like, oh man, this would be fun to do.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Billie Jean, and I'm from Troy, New York. And I was just wondering how much of your media is aimed toward college students, because I think Seth in the last panel was saying that that's where a lot of the trouble is coming with losing freedom in New Hampshire. So probably 18 to 21-year-olds. Do you guys do anything for that? Because it seems like it'd be a good spot to kind of target.
Well, I know when I did Liddy's in Keene, there's actually a pirate radio station here in Keene. Someone played LRN over the airwaves. I don't know who that was, but thank you. But I went out a couple Saturdays. I didn't tell anybody else about this because I was kind of embarrassed, but I'll tell you guys. I actually went out a couple Saturdays and made up these little flyers and passed them out to the college kids, like, listen to this station. And I don't know if that helped at all, but I did see an increase in some traffic flow the next couple weeks. And I generally, I guess because I'm college aged anymore, but I'm like in my 20s. So I think that's more relatable. I think people my age or around my age relate to someone more their age. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I talk.
I try to be as broadly appealing as possible because just the messages and emails I'll get from people are just all ages. Like grandparents will message me and be like, oh, my granddaughter saw one of your videos and it was super awesome and thanks for that. And people will email me and say, oh, I'm sorry that my generation ruined everything for you. And just stuff like that. But then I'll get emails from people in high school saying, I'm so sick of my teachers indoctrinating me. How can I get over this? And so because I'm contacted by all ages of people, I don't actually try to target any one demographic because I would hate to alienate anybody else.
I just wanted to say that in New York and Albany, we have the Young Americans for Liberty chapter. So we have a broad range of people from all different ages, and then we have the younger kids that are in college, and they're the ones that are getting out all the information. And I know that you guys talked about retaining people in New Hampshire, so you have a lot of young people leaving. So, like Carla's from New York City, or I'm from New York, and for me, it's like, well, what does New Hampshire have that's going to make me want to be here? And it's freedom. Right. So if these kids get excited about freedom like we did, they might actually want to stay and actually help with the voting process as well to keep, repealing laws and things like that. So, yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that's a valuable audience segment. That wouldn't be something that specifically the Free State Project would do within the state. That might be something NHLA would want to do, is to really, reach out. Sadly, and this is something I have been working on and trying to do, is do more talks in surrounding states on college campuses. But, most of the libertarian clubs are woefully tiny. I mean, if there were 20 people at my Harvard talk, that would have been, something. So I could see partnering with YLA more, certainly Students for Liberty. I do think that's a segment that we should be targeting more. And Honestly, I mean, I think a good way to target people like that is to introduce them to shows like SLA, you know, where it's not pedantic, it's not preaching at you, it's just kind of like, whoa, here are like really cool people doing really cool stuff, you know, so yeah, we should do more.
I know that I don't really target any particular age group. I also get emails from all kinds of people. I got an email from a 65-year-old man in Michigan that said, "You're like the libertarian friends I never had." And that was so sweet. But also I get a lot of emails from guys saying, okay, my girlfriend, my wife, like doesn't really get it, so I showed her your show. And so like, you know, we're not hit you over the head with libertarianism. It happens to come up somehow, you know, and I try to only mention the Free State Project once per show because I don't want it to be like a New Hampshire show. But I haven't really focused on college students at all, other than stop wasting your money, don't go to school.
I think I don't know the exact reason for. Oh, there's a question, but hold on. Let me finish. I just want to. So with people in New Hampshire, something I've totally noticed since moving is the majority of people here are so liberty oriented. They're totally libertarians. They just don't know it. They think that, you know, they're Republican or Democrat because that's what their parents were or whatever. But, you know, they're not for the drug war. They're tired of cops abusing people. They're tired of, you know, tax money. People move here for freedom. And I think maybe one of the reasons why younger folks leave is because they've grown up here, and it can be kind of boring during the winter because there's not a lot to do except for skiing and bowling. So you should go bowling. But there might be a multitude of factors why people leave a state, but I think it's 57% of the people who live in New Hampshire moved here from somewhere else. And I think that speaks volumes that people are moving here for the liberty and for the freedom that they find here.
This panel brought to you by bowling.
I like bowling. Deal with it. Yes.
My name is Matt, and I'm wondering if any of you would be interested in going to a campus and challenging a socialist to a debate and reaching out to college students that way.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I think all of you would do well.
I actually love arguing with people on the internet. I'm very, very good at it. In real life, I like arguing with people and telling them why they're wrong. Yes.
It really... That type of thing, I've been to debates, like official ones. I went to this one about global warming, and that was interesting because the audience was all college students from San Jose State University. You can imagine a Californian public school, what the audience was cheering for. So on one side, you had 2 college professors, and on the other side, you had scientists who work in the private field, and like a business owner, and they had all this science. The public school side had the hockey stick graph, the Al Gore graph, and whatever, and it just... I wouldn't want to participate in anything like that. I'm just going to get, you know, verbally beaten up by 1,000 people while I'm sitting over here with, you know, facts. Stuff like that. So, and then when we get into... The other day, I stayed up till 10 o'clock in the morning because someone was wrong on the internet. And I know probably a majority of us in this room do that. And then it just became really emotional. And I think that socialists end up having emotional arguments since that's all that they have. So I don't know. She'll do it.
Al Gore, who just sold all his green energy investments to invest in fracking, that Al Gore, that happened. True story. See, sometimes it's useful to read the mainstream media. It does give you some bullet points.
Well, that's awesome. I would totally be up for debating someone. I like talking. It's fun. Any other questions? I'm sputtering. I'm just gonna say it. I'm sputtering. Anybody? No. Hey, we got a question. Yes. Save us from ourselves. Save me from myself because I am terrible in the morning.
Just want to say hi, everybody. I'm Frank Alfoldano from the statist town of New York City. And just want to say thanks to Carla, first of all, because, you know, she helped me do a lot of research on the non-aggression principle and nonviolent parenting. My daughters, thank you for that. A lot of people complain in New York City about the taxes and regulations, but there are not a lot of doers. So if you could give me some recommendations, like on how to be more of a doer, that would be great.
Do. I mean, honestly, you know, for me, I believe that moving here is an act of activism, and if that's the only thing you're ever going to do as an activist, that counts in my book. And here it's sort of infectious. Even if you move and you're convinced you're never going to do anything, you usually do get involved in some way, even if it's just on a local level, on a board level. In terms of, you know, I mean, you got to leave New York, didn't they? I mean, you got to leave. They just put the smoking, and you know, I'm not advocating. You know, this portion is not brought to you by the Marlboro Man, but you know, we should all be free to put in our bodies what we want to do, and if people want to make bad choices, that's up to them. You know, so if we didn't have to pay for other people's medical, then you know, it would be a non-issue. I know I just went on a sidetrack, but New York State, they just put up the smoking. You have to be 21 now to the city, 21 to buy cigarettes. And, you know, so there's just that sort of nannyism in terms of what you can do, you know, the Facebook stuff, spreading the message. If you hear really compelling narratives or media, you know, maybe, you know, SLA is not always your cup of tea, but you found this one where you're like, oh, this is amazing. Maybe specifically target certain people, you know, get involved, volunteer, go to gun shows, volunteer on the Free State Project website. We're always looking for people to go to do booths and spread the message and, I don't know, move, really.
I'm going to kind of echo Carla, because my very first act of doing something was moving. I honestly can't imagine, you know, doing something where I lived before, because I didn't know any other libertarians besides my sister, and she was in a different state. So, yeah, moving here I think is one of the best things. When I moved, I was mover 930. There's now over 1,400, which I think is awesome. We just hit 15,000. I'm so excited. I can't wait for 2015 when we trigger the move, and oh my God, it's going to be so good. So yeah, you should move. That's what I think you should do. Mark has a question.
First off, you're 930 less 275. The 930 number was what was on the board when you moved, and there's 275 in state at that point. Anyway, so here.
No, that was when I moved. I put my thing in, and it said it went up to 930.
That was the in-state number on the old website. Yeah. So you're 930 less 275, and I don't do the math.
No, I'm just gonna say 930 because
all right,
that's easy enough.
Look, I'm 421 then, but
hey,
805. 420 is right over there in the back with the orange badge on. Yeah, I've got a question. Having been in state for 8 years or 7 years, I don't know exactly what it is. This is the largest concentration of liberty activists in the world. What have we learned, what have you learned, specifically as far as what kind of activism works and doesn't work? I know that when I go on the internet that people give me all kinds of free advice on which activism is causing what disastrous consequence. You know, if you run around topless in Central Square in Keene, New Hampshire, it causes the earth to crack wide open. If you vote, you're perpetuating the system. If you do liberty media and you say one thing wrong one time, you have ruined the liberty movement. I really don't even know what's left.
I want to go over that list in order. First of all, if we stop mentioning, and I do this too, and I stopped maybe a year ago, if we stop mentioning the topless thing in Keene, it'll go away. It's for the most part, it's us. So that's lesson number one. What was the second one? Was voting. Okay, so someone posted something yesterday where they were like, oh, voting, you're perpetuating the system, blah, blah, blah. Can anarchists vote? And I was like, can anarchists vote for other anarchists?
Can anarchists tell other anarchists not to vote?
No. You know, so, I mean, in terms of what's effective, I think it depends who's asking the question and what they're measuring. There is activism that gets media attention that, you know, the original story might be negative, but, you know, you got the name of whatever you're promoting out in front of other people who might never have heard about it. I personally think activism that works is where you look like the good party. I think something like the Robin Hooding in Keene has actually been really effective because you get other people on your side. So that's the kind of stuff you want to do, is where other people go, yeah, I'm on their side on this, you know?
I think some of the best activism that I've seen is when there's a combination of things. There's a good story followed up by maybe some kind of legislation, like the medical marijuana bills and the taking away the gun law, or not the gun laws, the knife laws and whatnot. Or when, like with the Robin Hooding, there's a good story there, and then they followed up with a bunch of media, and then they're following up with a really good court case. When there's a combination of things, I think that's when you see more action, because each individual is doing what they're really good at, whether it be, they're in the legislature and they're doing that, or they're, promoting to the media what's going on, or they're actually doing the activism, whether it be waving signs or protest or walking around topless, whatever it is. When there's a combination, when everyone takes their talents, when you have the division of labor and everyone puts their talents together, then you get a better product. So I personally think all forms of activism are valid, because when they work together, we win. That's all.
So it's the stumbling towards liberty method. I just, I have yet to see that perfect activism, and I always sort of wonder to myself, how do we do it? How do we form it up together?
I mean, I think we don't quite know yet, but I would say based on, the 7 years I've been here as well, it seems like we are stumbling. We've gone from crawling to stumbling to possibly strolling. I don't know. We're not at a sachet yet.
Maybe a stagger.
But,
stagger.
But we want to get to the sachet stage. Okay. But I think part of that challenge is just circling back once again to the idea of community and communicating. And sort of, I think maybe 5 years ago, there was this sort of mentality where everyone was like, my way is the right way, and if you're not doing it my way, there's the highway, And I think as the movement has evolved, that has changed. More people know each other. Say Ian's doing something, and he calls me, and he's like, hey, this is going to go down. It's like, okay, we can prep for this, or, so as the community grows and people communicate, that helps. I think people playing to their strengths is something that helps. Let's say with the Bearcat thing, that was pretty compelling. Then a bunch of people said, oh, we're going to run, and the elections are November 5th. We'll see how that goes. Maybe, that was one of those situations, or some of the candidates, I think, we could have, but it's trial and error, and unless we're going to micromanage it, which, no one's interested in, then, I think as we evolve, we become more efficient, and I think we are moving from sort of stumbling to something else. I think as something like the NHLA grows, I think as we build alliances with other organizations like the New Hampshire Liberties Union, NHCLU, those kinds of things, when we can start to partner also with other organizations and get them on board, that's a big win. If we could get some think tanks out here, it's a long-term gain, and I think we're getting better.
How is the NHCLU with the FSP or the NHLA?
So they have a new ED there. I actually applied for her job. So I was like, hey, I want to take you to lunch because you got my job. And they, I don't want to out her, but her husband's libertarian. They've been to Pork Fest. She's not libertarian, but she's certainly at least open to looking at more of the issues than, say, the prior people there. I think, there'll always be overlap on some things and maybe not so much on others. So, I think that long-term we can build a much stronger relationship there than we've had maybe in the past.
I honestly don't know if we'll ever get to the perfect activism, because that's pretty subjective in my opinion, because you're always going to have people who are like, oh, but I think we're getting pretty darn good at it. I mean, the Bearcat thing, that was fantastic. I love the way you handled it, and that was by far my favorite thing that has come out of Manchester. Definitely.
Well,
here we go with regionalism. Let's get it on.
So we keep
I'm sorry,
saying
Concord. That was Concord.
Yes. We keep saying we, and I'm confused as to what we mean by we. Do we mean all Free Staters throughout the state, throughout the world? There are little communities, and I don't want to bring up the regional thing, but there's been a lot of great activism. Of course, there's the Bearcat thing, that got a lot of news, but there's a lot of quiet activism too. I happened to be in Grafton when they had this town meeting. Grafton is a town of 1,100 people, and there is, a core of libertarians that live there. And they presented 2 different budgets to the town. One slashed it by 20%, the other one slashed it by 10%. The 20% there was only there to be the crazy thing, and they passed slashing the budget by 10%, which is huge because it always goes up every year. That's how, governments work. So that happened. There was no news on it. There was no Facebook thread of people, yelling at each other about poisoning the well or anything else. It just happened. This stuff happens all over the place. So when we say like, oh, we're always arguing and da-da-da, it's not about everything. There are, people doing awesome stuff all over the place.
And, this is a media panel, so I would say I would encourage those stories to come out, like we should. Every little win we have, we should trumpet. And I mean, I think that's something that Keene in particular has done really successfully. I mean, this is a media little capital.
It's the media capital of the world.
So those stories are important and should be spread.
Definitely.
Because those stories also teach you tactics. I mean, you just learned a tactic. Introduce 2 budgets. Make one really outlandish, make the other one look really attractive. Boom. Now you've, checkmated them. So that's a way to learn.
Hi.
Hello.
What's your name?
All right. Would someone like to comment on the line between being the story and reporting on the story? Because I've noticed over time, a lot of people have transitioned. I mean, originally, Kat and Russell they were the story and reported on the story. Dave was too. Ridley has made a really, seems to me, over time, transitioned from being the story to reporting the story where he's uninvolved so much. Derek, same transition. And some people, Ian's kind of held the line somewhere in the middle between reporting the story and being the story. But I think what happened with Adam, for instance, it could have been a result of him trying too hard to be the story when he had a nice thing going. And there are plenty of stories he didn't need to be the story. All he needed to do was continue reporting on it. So, I know everyone up on the panel has been both the story and reported the story. So I don't know if you'd like to comment on that.
Well, I've only been in the story once, and it's when I got a parking ticket. Luckily, when I moved, Derek was causing all kinds of trouble, so I just got to report on it and take some great footage of it. I've never really actually been the story myself. I always kind of watch, because I myself, I don't want to do civil disobedience. I just want to talk about it. I don't want to go to jail, because that's not nice.
I don't care which I am. It's just whatever works better, whatever gets more views, whatever changes more hearts and minds, whatever is more effective. If it's being the story, I'll do that. If it's reporting the story, I'll do that. And if it's a mix in between, depending on topic, I'll do that. For me, it's just about market feedback. In response to the last question, what is the best form of activism? I don't think that can actually even be defined, because it's if you are an ice cream producer and you put out a bubble gum, a mint, and a chocolate, it doesn't matter what you think the best kind of ice cream is. It's just whatever sells the most, whatever the consumer's preference expresses to be. And so I think that whatever works, that's the best form of activism. And let's try that again, and it might not work next time. So let's just keep, responding to the market feedback we're getting, which is so easily measured. Google Analytics tells you how many page views you get. Little Facebook like buttons tells you how many people liked it. There's no reason we should ever have to guess at the efficiency of our efforts, because it's literally measurable in numbered metrics online.
But don't you tend to lose perspective when you're in it?
I mean, it is a fine line, but the question is maybe, because it's we're creating something new. I think in Adam's case, the challenge was, or the challenge is if you're going to be the story, and I haven't talked to Derek about this, but I suspect maybe this might have been partly the case also, is there's a feedback loop of escalation. So it's like, I threw down and I said this, if you're Adam and you're like, okay, we're going to march with guns on DC or whatever. And then it doesn't happen, then it becomes a credibility issue. And so you kind of, depending on what you're putting out there, you can end up boxing yourself in. So, I mean, for me, I don't feel like other than when I got arrested, I was the story. But, for the most part, I feel like I just tell people what's going on for the FSP.
Did that answer your question?
Not really.
No.
I didn't really have a question. I just wanted some comments on it.
Okay. Mark, you're last.
Yeah, so for the two big media ladies over there, what do you do to get more views and make, what makes your shows popular? Antigone?
Okay, so I've picked up certain things throughout the years. Social media is huge. You should post something every day. Every day. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that because I'm doing the work of 3 people. So first, get an intern. I'm training her now because it takes a lot of time to prepare for my show. It takes a lot of time to edit my show. And I also need to do marketing and sales and work with my affiliates and all of that kind of stuff. So to definitely be present, to be interactive with people, that definitely grows the show. And in my case, to be controversial as well. I think everyone knows that I like pissing off feminists, and I have them on my show regularly. This brand of libertarian feminism. I've been blocked from the Libertarian Feminist page, so I think that's worked out well for me.
I find that the more I talk about what I truly believe, even if it's maybe not super popular, actually the better response I get. Like anytime in the past when I've felt myself slipping into the temptation of, oh, I'll post what I think they want to see, or I'll say what I think they want to hear, anything like that, then everything just starts sagging and dying, and I'm not having fun and they're not having fun, and then nothing is getting done. So when I just say what I want to say, even people who don't agree with me will actually still message me. And they'll tell me, I don't agree with you for this reason, but I do for this and this, and would you please engage in a dialogue about this, because this is fascinating to me, and da-da-da-da-da. So I find that the more that I just do what I want, the better off it is.
And that really, that comes from literature, it comes from the arts, it's called your voice, right? And the more true to your own voice you can be, the better. And as Cecelia said, we're people who actually kind of like to argue and like to disagree and like to work the nuances. So the more honest I think you are, and just you're this is who I am, take me or leave me, lump me or love me or lump me, or whatever the saying is, the more real it is. And I didn't say hump. I did not say hump.
Love me or hate me.
Oh, whatever. Lump. I'm sure there's a lump in there. Okay, anyway. See, your voice, right? So if you're just genuine, I think people respond to that, and people want to disagree and want to understand. And so that's, just be true to your voice. I think everyone up here is.
And I've noticed something, it's odd, because maybe it is because we all kind of tend to like the same, books, or Orange is the New Black, we didn't talk about it, we just all of a sudden realized we were all watching that, I've noticed that, I'll be crafting an episode on, I'm gonna pick a recent one, rape culture. What the hell is that? So I was working on that, and then Flaming Freedom did an episode on it, and Pork Therapy did an episode on it, and it's I did not discuss this with, there you go, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but it was all within a week or two, we were all kind of wondering, what is this new term that's all over the place? And so there's this weird, I don't know, synergy between all of us that we just kind of
Well, and that's the social media aspect, right? If everyone's kind of reading more or less the same feeds, you know, then I think that becomes that feedback loop as well.
I don't know how to end one of these, but this has been Ladies in Media. Thanks for coming to Keenevention 2013.
Wow, what a great panel. I have to say I was a little worried when we announced we were going to have expanded panels at Keenevention. I mean, the typical panel length is a 50-minute panel, and the thing I always hate about a good panel is when it ends. And so that's why I wanted to make 75-minute panels, and we've gone overtime, so great job, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. It's lunchtime, everybody, and we don't provide lunch to you, so you get to go explore Keene and find stuff downtown or on West Street or wherever it is you want to go. Gather together with friends, new friends, old friends, and go enjoy. You got about an hour and a half. We'll be back here at 1:30 to pick up again. And the Porcupreneurs panel with your host, Mark Warden, will be here at 1:30, so you don't want to miss that. So make sure you're back in time for that. Also, Daryl, make sure you see him at the back table there. He has raffle tickets. And Daryl, what is available for raffle? How's it going to work?
There are actually more prizes being added after I had announced the already existing prizes. So today, I believe that there are going to be either 2 or 3 prizes given away before supper. You can buy raffle tickets today. It's good for all of the drawings. The one tonight, the one tomorrow, and the one Sunday before lunch, where the grand prize that will be given away is a free night for 2 at the Stone Farm Bed and Breakfast down in Fitzwilliam, along with money. Everybody likes money. Another prize, one that will be given away tomorrow night, is a date with Derek J, to where Derek has said that he will buy someone lunch and then sing them a song at karaoke. So you get to pick the song, and Derek J will serenade you at karaoke tomorrow night. There's also a Cop Block goodie bag that has a Cop Block hoodie and one of the shiny badges, Don't Grant Extra Rights. And you can also win some books published by Free Press Publications, as well as a 1-year subscription to the FPP News. And as I said, there are more prizes being added, including a gift certificate for some specialty cleaning from, what's the name? Specialty Cleaning Services? From Specialty Cleaning Services, and I think a custom knit bonnet or something that is being donated by one of our wonderful VIPs. So more gifts, and I think also
tickets are how much?
Tickets $1 a piece, 6 for $5, 12 for $10, or your height in tickets for $25. Wow! And tickets are good for all of the drawings.
When you say your height in tickets, what does that mean? So if I'm 6 feet tall,
you will stand on one ticket. I will roll the thing of tickets up and then break it off somewhere near the top of your head. If your head's in the middle of a ticket, I go up.
And this money will be going to help cover costs of Keenevention. Is
Absolutely.
That right? Thank you for that.
So the money that doesn't get given away in the prize will be donated to offset the cost.
Everybody, enjoy your lunch. We'll see you back at 1:30.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeene.com. Freekeene.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeene.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeene.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.